Hello guys, welcome back to the Evergreen RX. I'm your host Hayden, licensed mental health therapist, Cancer Moon, and the first to get deep at any party. I just need to address the elephant in the room. For any of you guys watching, for those of you guys listening, this isn't an elephant at all, and I wouldn't have to say anything, but I'm wearing a Guinness sweater right now. And I just think it's so funny. One, because of the whole concept of my podcast. But also, I just have to let you guys know that I had my first beer like a year ago. It's not that I didn't drink. It's just that I didn't drink beer. And then I went to Ireland and I went to the Guinness storehouse and I was like, well, I have to drink a Guinness. And then I literally got a sweater to prove it. And I just think it's really funny that I'm wearing a Guinness sweater and I've had like, I don't know, probably like 8 in my life. Anyway, that's the elephant. So now that that's out of the way, I'm going to be talking to you guys today about how you make yourself more interesting. So honestly, kind of an appropriate attire for this episode because, you walk around with a big Guinness sweater on. I don't know. Maybe you strike up some conversations. Anyway, I need to stop talking about the sweater. But basically, what today's episode is about is that you need a hobby. Girl, you need a hobby. I was thinking about what it looks like for me, what my understanding of living a full, fulfilling, well-rounded life is. And I was like, I haven't really talked too much about hobbies. And I think this is a huge component of living a full life and of being an interesting, engaging, well-rounded human being. So let's talk about it. Because way back when, episode 10, in my episode Big Picture Approach to Planning, which is basically about like a wellness wheel. Like if you've ever seen that, kind of a wheel that has all the different areas, sections of your life on it, like career, relationship, family, hobbies. That's one of them. And I think it's a big one. Right now, we're living in a realm where social media involves a lot of consuming, taking in, the internet in general. We're always consuming. We're watching videos. We're, watching TV, whatever. And so doing something novel, having your own hobby, your own thing that you actually do in the real world and spend time on and learn from really helps with, having something to put out into the world. Even if you're not like putting it out like to sell it or to have other people like consume it, you still are practicing the art of creation, which I think is a big part of why we're alive and why we like manifest in a physical world, is so that we can exercise our ability to create and make things happen in our environment. And I think a hobby in particular is really important because it's not just our work or our social life. It exercises a different part of our brain and our being. What it's like to do something just for the sake of doing it. What it's like to do something just for you and to nurture other parts of yourself that might not be nurtured in other ways. I don't know if any of you guys, most likely some of you guys, have read The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And she talks about artist dates in that book. Basically, the whole book is about creativity and how to nurture your creativity. But, going on artist dates is the idea of going out, doing something novel, letting yourself be inspired, taking things in. But then there's the whole other component of, we do that in order to nurture our ability to put things out into the world, to exercise our own creativity, our own unique voice, and to show our expression in the world. So, why do I think this makes you more interesting? There's a lot of reasons, but one of them is I think that having a hobby in which we are challenged, we learn, we grow, we make mistakes, we're a beginner, We try new things. We have a safe space to explore, a safer space than probably most of our jobs are or school is to be able to explore in. We gain a lot of experience that then we can draw on. And my soapbox, my little 20-something-year-old soapbox I'm going to get on for Gen Zs is I think that we don't have enough critical thought nowadays. And part of that, I believe, comes from consumption. We're just always taking things in and sometimes taking them kind of wholesale and just we don't really have to take something in and then transmute it ourselves. We can just scroll past it. And what I mean by this is when you're in a discussion with someone, they offer you something, an opinion, a thought, or whatever. Then you take it in and you think about it and you respond. And that's kind of a form of transmutation. You shared something with me, now it runs through my own perceptions and opinions and experiences, and I return it to you. And maybe I agree or maybe I don't. And not to say we don't do this on the internet, we can for sure, but we don't have to. You can just watch something for 60 seconds, goes in one ear, out the other, and we move on. Many people are not active commenters even. So it doesn't, it just kind of lands and then floats away. And I think what is valuable about, in particular, having a hobby is the same idea of transmutation. That we learn things, we take things in, and then we act on them and we do them. I think without that hobby, sometimes we can miss out on our own development of cultivating our interest and cultivating and bringing into our world our unique expression of self. We all have our own unique makeup and the thing that we bring to the world. When I was doing some brainstorming on this podcast because I'm going to make some changes for season 4. And when I was talking to my family about, what I want to create and the format in which I want to do that, I was like, so what's the point? Why listen to me? Why, would people engage if this is, I'm not the only one doing this? And my family was like, well, because it's you, because your experience and your unique perspective and the unique way in which I can combine things and deliver them to others, just in a podcast, for example. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. And it's easy to forget that when we're just thinking about ourselves, what makes me different and special. And a lot of times what it is that makes us different and special and interesting is our unique experience and our ability to express that in the world. So it's kind of a twofold thing. By having hobbies, we have these unique experiences we can share with people and teach people about things they maybe don't know about. And then also through that hobby, we have a platform where we're able to express our unique kind of makeup. Taking one of my hobbies, for example, piano. I'm not the first person and I won't be the last person to play that instrument. And I'm also learning music, so I'm playing something someone else wrote. I'm not even writing my own music. But the way that I play it, my interpretation of it, the speed, the style, it's all filtered through who I am as a person. And that's really special. It's something my piano teacher actually talks about a lot, is that we have this ability to put our unique stamp on things. And I think when we're doing something outside of a work environment or school environment, it allows us more freedom to just play and to figure out what that unique stamp is. And then we have something unique to say in the world. That's, again, circling back to what makes us interesting. Next time you're at a cocktail party or whatever, whether or not you talk about your actual hobby, perhaps through that hobby, you've learned more about yourself and you can bring that to the conversation. And that's one of the most interesting things I think, in the world. So I think there's also a need to balance introspection versus exploration. So I think we're in a time, especially for us low wellness people, where we can get caught up in all the introspection, self-growth, healing, realm, which is great because we get to know ourselves better through that way, and we gain awareness and learn things through that. But maybe we forget to enjoy life and do things just because. A hobby, what is it if not doing something just because? Just because it puts us in a flow state, or just because it brings us a sense of joy or accomplishment. And on the flip side, when we're too focused on the external world or how others view us, or just our social life, or being able to monetize things, or make everything into work, then we can miss out on some of that exploration and play and freedom. And so it's a balance. It's a yin and yang of introspection and internalization versus externalization. And a hobby is kind of an interesting little culmination of the both. So when you're thinking about a hobby, thinking about something you want to do just for you, ponder, what is it that you loved to do as a kid? What was your favorite activity? Is there a way that you could involve that in your life somehow now? Think if you didn't have to get paid, if you didn't have to make money, what would you spend all day doing if you could? And see if there's little ways to incorporate that in your life now. Because life isn't just work and socializing and eating and sleeping. At least in my belief, I think we're here for experiences, again, to be tangible, to manifest things into the real world. Manifestation gets talked about in this very kind of out there woo-woo way, which it can be that, but it's also just very much like, I want a cake, I make a cake. I manifested that cake into the real world. How cool is that? We have the ability to do it. And so we can draw on that when we're talking to others as well. We can draw on those tangible life experiences that we gain. I remember reading this book, I think it was The Defining Decade or something. And it's a lot about finding your path as a 20-something and your career and jobs and whatever. And one of the things she talks about is that usually in interviews, the thing that people always want to talk about is that one like weird, unique thing on your resume. And not always. I feel like some people are going to come after me about that. And I know it's really hard getting a job nowadays. And people don't want, you to have been a fucking instructor of horseback riding. They want you to have 7 years of experience in something you just graduated in. But whatever. She did say that there is value to having that weird thing on there. When you were a camp counselor, when you traveled to a different country to teach Spanish, or, and while those might not really be the same as hobbies, I think the same kind of general principle applies to real life. Again, when you're out talking to a stranger, getting to know someone new, do they really want to talk about what you do at your 9 to 5? Or would it be way more interesting if you bring up that you build model cars as a hobby? Love that that's the hobby I thought of. But hey, I don't hear about that often. That'd be fascinating. I can't tell you how often people really perk up and are interested when I say that I play the piano. I'm always surprised that I'm like, this is the thing? Like, this seems pretty, run of the mill, but people want to know about it. People are interested. Outside of just like that part of it, I also think that having a hobby lends to your development and your interest, because it teaches us how to have patience, how to be curious, how to have an open mind, how to deal with failure and deal with the feeling of being a beginner. The beginner's mind is something that's talked about a lot in tarot. There's a whole card that kind of represents that. But I'm obsessed with the idea, Because when we have a beginner's mind, we're almost like recapturing some of that energy of being a baby that is endlessly fascinated by the world around them, and that is able to experience something in the pure sense because they don't already know everything about it. And hobbies really give us the opportunity to do that and explore that feeling in so many different ways. That's my rant. That's my info for you. That's my thoughts. Kind of more of a I don't know, philosophical type. Maybe not what you were expecting when I said I was, going to tell you how to make yourself more interesting, but I think that there's some real meat there and some things to ponder. So ponder it, girl, and let me know what you think. Also, speaking of making some changes for season 4, because season 3 is rapidly ending, I am wanting to solicit more listener questions. So send me your questions. You can email me at theevergreenrx@gmail.com. You can also reach out to me on like DMs on Instagram. But send me your questions. What do you want to know? What are you struggling with in your own life? How can we help each other live well? Okay. Well, I look forward to seeing you when I see you next. Thanks so much for listening, for sharing, for rating, for reviewing, for watching on YouTube. And I'll catch you guys later. Bye.